There was a village once, small and quiet, surrounded on three sides by thick, dark woods. People lived peacefully, farming during the day, resting by their fireplaces at night. It was the kind of place where everyone knew each other, and everyone feared the forest. No one ever went into the woods after dark. That wasn't just a rule, it was a warning, a tradition passed from old to young, spoken with serious eyes and lowered voices. Children were told stories, tales about people who stepped too close, who wandered into the trees and never came back. Or worse, came back different. But stories are just stories. Until they're not. It started on a cold October evening. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the fields. The wind carried the scent of burning leaves. For friends sat near the old wooden fence that marked the edge of the forest. The village boys called this spot the line. Thomas, the eldest of the group at 17, leaned on a stick he used like a sword. Beside him sat Jonah, quiet and thoughtful. Then there was Sam, always laughing, even when he was scared. And finally, there was Eli, smallest, youngest, and always asking questions. Eli stared into the trees. Have you ever heard them whisper? He asked, not turning his eyes away. Thomas frowned. Who? The trees, Eli said, voice soft. When the wind stops. When it gets real quiet. Jonah and Sam laughed, but it didn't sound honest. I think you're listening too hard, Sam said, chuckling nervously. Eli shrugged. My grandmother said the woods were alive. She said they talk, but not with voices like ours. Thomas threw a rock into the trees. It didn't go far, just enough to vanish into the shadows. Old people say a lot of things, he said. It's just wind and animals. But that night, something felt off. As the sky darkened and the first stars came out, the friends walked back toward the village. But Eli stayed a moment longer. Just a moment. He heard it then. A soft sound, not wind, not animals. A whisper, like words half spoken into the night. It said his name. Just once. Eli. He turned quickly, heart pounding. But there was no one there. The trees stood still. Back in the village, oil lamps lit the narrow paths between homes. Eli didn't tell the others. He didn't even tell his grandmother. But he couldn't sleep. He stared out his window at the woods. And the woods stared back. The next morning, the village buzzed with quiet concern. A hunter named Gareth hadn't returned. He was skilled, careful, and respected. People whispered over their fences and behind closed doors. He knows better, someone said. He wouldn't stay out past dusk. But he had. His dogs came back alone, silent and scared. The forest stayed quiet. Later that day, the boys met again by the fence. No one laughed this time. Not even Sam. They say Gareth went deep into the woods, Jonah whispered. For what? Asked Thomas. Chasing something. Said he saw movement near the black pines. The black pines. The oldest part of the forest. Dead trees that stood like bones. You believe it? Sam asked, kicking at the dirt. Jonah didn't answer. Eli did. I think the forest watches. I think Gareth saw something watching him back. They stood in silence. Then, just as Thomas opened his mouth to speak, something rustled in the trees. Not wind. Not birds. Something heavy. The boys froze. Just a deer, Thomas said quickly. But they didn't believe it. And the forest whispered again. That night, Eli couldn't sleep again. He kept thinking about the voice. The whisper that called his name. He tried to pretend it hadn't happened. But part of him knew it had. He crept downstairs, careful not to wake his grandmother. He opened the front door and stepped outside. The village was quiet. Too quiet. He looked toward the trees. And this time, something looked back. A figure. Not moving. Not hiding. Just standing there. Watching. Eli blinked, and it was gone. The next morning, another person was missing. This time, a farmer. The village met in the small chapel. Fear on every face. Whispers everywhere. The elder tried to calm them, but no one was calm. "The woods are hungry," someone muttered. "They're waking up again." Thomas, Jonah, Sam, and Eli sat together, listening. "What does that mean?" Eli whispered. Thomas didn't answer. Jonah did. "My mother says the woods sleep for years. Then they wake. And when they wake, they take." That afternoon, the boys returned to the line. They didn't laugh. They didn't play. They watched the trees. And the trees whispered back. This time, all four of them heard it. Soft, slow, like breath in their ears, calling each of them by name.